What do you think is going on in Matt Ryan's mind right now with, his advancing years? He's not, in his 40s, not, he's on the north side and in his back nine of his 30s, let's put it that way. And, an expensive contract and a team sitting there at 4th overall with an ability to get him from what we're assuming, because it's going to go quarterbacks the first 3, any pass catcher he wants, including the generationally talented, from what we've seen, Kyle Pitts, and just stock him up for his final years there, or they could get somebody to replace him and start that clock. What do you think's going through the mind of a veteran like Matt Ryan, Carson Palmer?
Oh, I think what's going on in his mind is just his legacy. He's was a high draft pick. I think he was the 2nd pick in the draft. And has had a phenomenal career. I mean, statistically, it's been phenomenal. He's won an MVP. He's got them to the Super Bowl. But he's also going, man, if this organization is focused on the future, they're probably going to take a quarterback. If they think I have a year or 2 left, they'll probably take a receiver or a playmaker outside. And you got to factor in the Julio Jones, too. I mean, Julio Jones is also kind of near the end. He's going to need to be replaced at some point here within the next 2 or 3 drafts. But I think, Matt is definitely going, man, I just need one more weapon. Please don't take a quarterback. Matt's going to be the starter for the year. So whoever they take is going to be holding the clipboard on the sidelines. And Matt's at the point in his career where he doesn't quite have the same quickness, the same velocity on the ball. He needs more guys like Julio that he can throw shorter passes to, get the ball out of his hands quicker before he gets hit, that can take a reception the distance and break a tackle and beat everybody with speed. So I think he's just sweating it. Unfortunately, you get to that point in your career where you are dwindling a bit physically, and you start getting really self-conscious, and you start worrying about, man, I know I can get this team back to Super Bowl. I just need a little bit more help. I don't want the fan base to get all excited about maybe getting a Justin Fields or one of these young gunslingers coming out. You just need a couple more years and a couple more weapons. So it's a really uncomfortable feeling for a guy like Matt, who has been one of the better, top 5-10 quarterbacks in the league for a decade now. So it's definitely uncomfortable out there in Atlanta for Matt.
Dan, I mean, draft night, right? He'll be looking down at his phone, maybe for a text from the draft room saying, or a phone call to say we're about to take the quarterback, and we'll talk about it when we're on the clock. We'll talk about it when we're back in the office. You're still our guy, but we'll talk to you Friday. We'll talk to you Monday. I mean, that Thursday's going to be, because I imagine they're just not going to let him in on what they're thinking. I mean, that's just not the way it goes.
No.
In the NFL.
No, and it's just one of those deals. You're just kind of sitting, acting like, around your wife and your kids and your parents or whoever's around. You're kind of acting like it's no big deal. But it's a tense time, and like I said, Matt's just looking at this like he's looking at Tom Brady leave an offense where he didn't have a ton of firepower, and then go to Tampa Bay where you've got Mike Evans, and you go on and on down the list, O.J. Howard at tight end, and all these weapons, and you see a guy that's similar in age to yourself, and you see all the weapons they have and all the screen game things they can do where the ball's out quick and you're not taking hits, and you're hoping that happens. But the other thing, too, is as soon as they do take a quarterback, Matt knows, every time he walks into a press conference and every interview he does, that's the topic, is the replacement, your replacement that was just drafted. So it's just another layer of pressure. It's another layer of stress. It's another thing on top of your job that you have to deal with is all those questions all year long, all training camp, all season long. As soon as you put together a couple games in a row where you lost and, had a 80 or below passer rating, those questions they keep festering you, and it's all season long. So, it's like we said, you're spot on. These are some nervous times for guys like Matt who are probably at the end of the rope, and there's always potential when you have a high draft pick that they're gonna replace you, and that's always a fear.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.